All right, let's welcome Prakash and Siddarth as well into the conversation. Siddarth, you go first. Would you also recommend, like Shubham, a short on the Nifty? What would your strategy be?
So we have been suggesting shorting Nifty from higher levels, and our call has been that 8050, 8100 would remain as strong resistance despite if RBI reduces the interest rate by 50 basis points, which is unlikely. But even if that happens, market would face great difficulty to breach that resistance. So what we are observing on the data front is that FIs continue to sell in cash market. Yesterday, despite less volumes, we have seen 650 crores of selling in cash market. Though they didn't do much of things in index futures, if you look at index options, there's a lot of buying of calls. Now one would assume that probably they're expecting bounce back. That's why they have bought 8,000, 8,100, 200, 300 call options. But how I read it, that they have shorted market index futures in last series, and they have rolled over their good amount of short positions. Just before the event, they are hedging their positions by buying call options. That is how I read it. And looking at the global markets, looking at the consensus that there will be only 25 basis point, I think they would cover their call options today itself. So we are negative on the market. We are negative on Bank Nifty as well. If there is a 50 basis cut and there is a probably 400, 500 points upside move, then you can short Bank Nifty also. And the private sector components of Bank Nifty are also looking weak. Large cap sectors like L&T, BHL, these stocks are looking weak. Last week we mentioned L&T to short. So even companies, mainly sometimes Lata, it happens that you have view on index, but you don't know which stocks would go down, and sometimes it is opposite. But this time it is quite clear that even large cap stocks, even index, we are seeing formation of shorts and weakness prevailing. So I think we are heading towards those recent lows, and who knows, we might breach those lows also. So right now we are sticking to those lows. That's we may visit 7550, 7500, but it is quite likely we might breach those lows also.
Okay, Siddarth, just a couple of stocks. So you were mentioning the capital goods names. In fact, BHEL has lost 15% of its value this month itself. There is a fresh shorting opportunity there, you think?
Yeah, we have been witnessing around 205, 210 zone that this stock was coming to its psychological support of 200, but despite that there was some shorting which is taking place, and now the support is gone. Next support is very near, around 185, but the way L&T, BHEL are seeing formation of short positions, I think this stock won't respect that support of 185. I'm not saying the stock will go to 150 or so, but as of now I'm expecting that probably 175, 174 is quite achievable in this counter. So despite gap down, I still feel that BHEL is a shorting candidate.
Okay, and now good morning, Prakash. Well, it's monetary policy day. You have seen so many in your time. It's all an hour's job. The governor will say he doesn't see too much of scope for further cuts, but give one for the day. That's what the majority is veering towards. What will the markets do? Sulk for an hour and then get going with life?
I guess so. I mean, I think this is the first time that there's so much of consensus that it has to happen. I hope Raghav Raj listens to that. Or
he created that.
Yeah, he
said in Jackson Hole that I see more scope for accommodation. So I don't see.
To read that as the announcement of rate cut in this round of the policy is an assumption that all of us have made. Of course, the inflation numbers do permit that, and the fact that the US Fed hasn't gone ahead with the hike makes it even more conducive.
The logic is if you don't cut at 3.76, then you will have less scope to cut at 4.5, which is I think going to be the September number.
Yeah. So, the market's already kind of penciled in that it's only 25 basis points. The disappointment is reflected in the SGX Nifty. I don't see anything else that needs to be done. So it could just be listless and
so
a non-event of sorts.
Okay. Well, let's start off with your stocks. You've picked out two names for us today for the longer term investor, and one of them is, frequently talked about name, Inox Leisure.
Yes, so I decided to take the path less traveled, go into areas which are not sensitive to interest rates and autos.
September has had global 4-day working days for all the 4 weeks.
Yes.
So you decided Inox Leisure.
No, in fact, it's become a trend. If you see the quarterly numbers, last quarter itself, they'd seen such a huge change, favorably. And what's happening is this trend of movies which clock 100, 200 crores turnover is becoming so common. I mean, you have such a slew of blockbusters which are in the making. Of course, I don't watch a lot of these movies, but I keep on hearing the kind of numbers that are coming even from regional films now that clock these kind of. The other important thing is the trend has changed between last year or probably yesteryears and now is that even tier 2 towns, the Hollywood movies have started doing well. Which was never the case. It was only the metros that absorbed those kind of things. But you see a lot of following there. And essentially INOX has quietly done this inorganic expansion, and there's a consolidation that's going on in the industry. So PVR is right there at the top. INOX has kind of inched its way up to the second slot now with a 24-23% market share. So it's a decent presence, and the operating leverage is simply beautiful. I mean, you have 25% growth on the F&B. So popcorn and Pepsi continues to sell irrespective whether the movie does well or not. So so those are things which are going to create a lot of moats around their business.
Yes, we know we are all victims of a very expensive popcorn.
Yes, absolutely. And people do have that discretionary spending thing which is not coming down. So I think, and they've got a very strong balance sheet. The promoters are really strong on the balance sheet side, and I think this company could kind of really get re-rated. It's not come down. I was waiting for it to actually lose off some ground in this meltdown, but it hasn't. So hopefully it will go up if it's not coming down.
Okay. Well, I think we have got only a few minutes for the pre-opening rates to come in. So let's give you some trading tips on Super 6, and we are back in a jiffy.
My first pick is a sell call on Ashok Leyland Limited. It tried to move unsuccessfully above its previous resistance of 92.5 and formed a bearish candlestick pattern at that level. Momentum indicator is also resisting crossing the bullish zone. Therefore, a sell call on Ashok Leyland with a stop of 93.5 for a target of 84.
I have a sell call on Cipla. Cipla has reflected near-term weakness by giving a downward key reversal on the daily chart. Mechanical indicators are supporting the move, have signaled a sell, indicating the stock's intention to depreciate further from here. One can sell Cipla at its closing of around 642, stop loss of 646 and a target of 634.
I have a sell call on Kotak Mahindra Bank. The stock was facing a lot of resistance near to 50-day moving average, which is placed near to 660. Yesterday it fell sharply, broke the support of 645 with higher volumes. So we will see further downside. It can test 620 in next 1 or 2 trading sessions. So one can go short with a stop loss of 650.
My second pick is a sell call on Just Dial Limited. It formed a bearish candle pattern at resistance levels in yesterday's trading session. Momentum indicator and daily chart is also poised at resistance. Therefore, a sell call on Just Dial with a stop of 980 for a target of 934.
I have a sell call on Union Bank of India. Union Bank of India has reflected near-term weakness by giving a mini breakdown on the intraday charts. The intraday mechanical indicators on the hourly charts are looking weak, have signaled a sell, indicating the stock's intention to depreciate further from here. One can sell Union Bank of India at its closing of around 179, stop loss of 182, the target of 173.
Century Textile has broken the neckline of head and shoulder pattern on the intraday chart, and on the daily chart it is still making lower tops and lower bottoms. So we may see further downside. It can test its previous low of 486. So one can go short with a stop loss of 512.
CNBC TV 18, celebrating 15 years of leadership.
Well, just want to pull up Asia again. I mean, a lot of the numbers, look at the SGX Nifty, and this is actually reflective of a lot of the Asian indices, all of which are now, I mean, 24 hours too late, probably awakening to the rather ugly industrial profit numbers from China. Look at the deep crack. It's all a choice between 2% and 4% in terms of falls. So I don't see why India should be spared. Just ignore this early numbers that are coming from from the Nifty, that's quite clearly a wayward number. The Sensex is indicating exactly how the Indian markets might open. There may be some breaks to the fall because you want to hear out this big monetary policy event, but I don't see how a green tick can come. I think it was 66.04 that the dollar cost at close yesterday. There might be a little bit of a negativity over there, just a wee bit, but that's of course been the stronger part of the Indian asset class, the rupee. We'll just wait for 66.04 was where it closed yesterday. And yes, it opens considerably weaker. Now, that is reflective of the global jitters over all risk assets, and so the rupee takes a knock. In any case, if there is a rate cut coming, the rupee would have to factor that in, but that should have been long factored in. I guess there is also some disappointment over whether FII debt flows will be uncorked. Chances are it won't. So for a whole host of reasons, I guess the rupee market has reason to perhaps show some disappointment today. But at the moment, that's a cut I wasn't prepared for, 0.25% cut.
Yes, for sure, Lata. And also the overarching theme today is what's happening with the metal space globally. So first we saw Glencore falling almost 30% on concerns about, persistently low commodity prices impacting the balance sheet. This morning in Asia, a lot of the steel producers like JFE Holdings, Nishan Steel are all down about 5 to 10% apiece. And a lot of the energy producers like Inpex, JX Holdings are also under pressure. Look at the way Asia is cracking now. So in our own markets, just keep tracking the metal space. There could be some ugly cuts today in that entire universe if we've not seen them already. Vedanta is down about 5.5% in morning trade. You have Tata Steel that's under pressure as well, down almost about 3% or so. A whole host of others like SAIL, etc. are also down and out. So that's one pocket that looks like it could be in for deep cuts. But let's get back to our guests. Shubham, you have a couple of buy calls as well. On your list of buys, Wipro tops it. What kind of target price are you looking at there?
Yeah, so Wipro is the only buy in the list that we have today, and if you look at the overall movement of CNX IT, compared to Nifty, that has been a relative outperformer, and we believe that that this relative outperformance should continue given the fact that Nifty we are expecting it to stabilize around 7,500. So 670 is the target that we see for Wipro. It has broken out from a consolidation, and that is why we expect that the previous high should get retested, and this can be traded with a stop loss at 558.
Okay, the Siddarth, you have sells on Ultratech Cement as well.
Yeah, so yesterday the news was out about how some of the firms have boycotted buying cement. That resulted into formation of short positions and stock coming down. But interestingly, there was some confusion at our end that on 22nd of last month there was huge formation of positions and prices have just come down a bit. So we were confused whether this is long or short. And now it is pretty evident that around 2,900, 2,850 there was huge shorting which was done in Ultratech Cement compared to what was done yesterday. So this is a large denomination stock. Generally you don't have weaker hands trading into it. So clearly this is stronger hands who have shorted this counter, and they won't short only for 200 points. So I'm expecting substantial downside from current levels, despite yesterday's stock has corrected with formation of short positions. So even at current levels one can form short positions for the target and stop losses mentioned on your screen.
Okay, well Prakash, two stocks that you track closely, would you touch them now? Tata Motors and Motherson Sumi?
Motherson Sumi, possibly yes, Sonia, but I would give it a couple of more days, maybe a couple of weeks for the dust to settle and to really assess the potential damage. And to my understanding, while yes, it does get impacted significantly and directly because of this association with Volkswagen, the extent of damage doesn't seem to be as much as the stock has been damaged. So my sense is once that clarity comes, of course the management has been a bit too optimistic about saying we will not be affected, but how soon they can switch over to other players and start supplying components to them is going to be very critical. So possibly the Japanese guys.
Okay, well I just want to squeeze in a word on the bond markets as well. Bonds have opened practically unchanged at 7.73. a rate cut could take this down to probably 7.6 or thereabouts, but the markets are not responding just yet, simply because there are a couple of negatives that they will have to worry about. If there is an SLR cut, that means there will be less appetite from the banks. Not that banks will stop buying, but that's a knee-jerk sentiment negative. And if FIIs are not given more leeway to buy, and my guess is they will not be, simply because at the moment you don't want the rupee to get stronger. So there will be more a promise that we are very soon considering it, we will review it or something on those lines. I'm not very sure they're going to give it. But if they do, then there is a space for bonds to increase a bit, bond prices to increase a bit. But the yield at the moment is quite stubborn. Most of the good news perhaps is reflected, and as and when it comes, of course, you will see it go closer to 7.65. And with that, I will have to leave for the Reserve Bank. Just to tell you what the procedure is, we are put into a room, locked in, not allowed to come out, phones taken away, all connecting devices taken away, and you're given the report, you're allowed to read it. So we get to know it about 45 minutes before the rest of you, but we can't breathe a word. So and at 11, the doors are thrown open and you can read it out.
You can only use ESP to communicate.
Yeah.
Okay, so the consensus view is that there will be a 25 basis points cut today. But just before we let you go, how high is there any probability at all of no rate cut? Because of a couple of reasons that, you know, Beek was also alluding to: household inflation rising, monsoons 15% deficient, and the RBI governor also stating in the past that the key task is to keep inflation under control. So is there any probability of a no rate cut today?
Not in my mind.
Okay.
I mean, I would still think that he gave it away at Jackson Hole, that, you know, there is scope. And, you know, despite the bad monsoon, cereal inflation is running at 2%. Okay. And that is the crop which gets, you know, impacted. It's not because marketing management has been good. Global grain prices are at 11-year lows, many of them. I mean, there would be some which would be 7-year lows. It's possible that this El Nino year is going to lead to some problems next year. But at the moment, they're at all-time lows, or whatever, decadal lows. So I don't think the logic applies immediately to food inflation. See, onion inflation has been there, pulses inflation has been there. It's not become a generalized food inflation. Okay. So the excuse that, you know, it might lead to a big general inflation is not working out now. So while it is a fear that, you know, the stocks have to be managed well, at the moment, it's a water problem, it's a rural poverty and crisis problem, it's not a food inflation problem. Okay. So I don't think he will use that, that logic not to cut. One is coming, but he will, I think the bigger numbers that my sense is the Reserve Bank worries about is services inflation. You know, food and medicine prices, education prices, household services, you know, the household help you employ, all those are still rising at 5.5%. Now that is the inflation which is not affected by monsoon, not affected by the landed price of steel or whatever. It is India's inherent inflation. Unless the Reserve Bank sees that coming down to 5, I don't think they will have the confidence. Here somebody else did the hard work and your prices fell.
Exactly.
Did you work to improve supplies, to control aggregate demand? You know, when your effort shows in the services inflation, I think I will be convinced that India is a low inflation country. And like some at the Reserve Bank, I would like to see India at 4% inflation. That is the services inflation. My sense, therefore, is one cut, but commitments for further cuts look unlikely.
Okay, we'll let you run along now and give us the update from the Reserve Bank headquarters. But for now, the market has settled lower by almost about 1% So it looks like we could be headed for an ugly start given the way global cues are panning out. And the top losers this morning are Vedanta and Tata Steel. Of course, all the commodity plays, because there's been a big sell-off globally in commodity stocks. Idea Cellular is down about 2% and auto stocks are under pressure as well. So Hero MotoCorp and a couple of others like Tata Motors are down about 1.5%. But getting back to our guests, Siddarth, you have a strategy, a sell call on Just Dial as well today. Take us through that.
Yes, Sonia. So this company is stock price wise is making new lows day in and day out. But then, you know, just recently they had launched a new app, and which resulted into some bounce back. In this bounce back, we haven't seen any formation of long position in the counter. And while counter was going down before, we had seen huge formation of short positions. Last 4 trading sessions, we have seen that the upside momentum is exhausting and volumes are also decreasing. I'm not so optimistic on this counter, and I would suggest to short this counter. I have very aggressive targets, but as of now I'm limiting my target to 870 and stop loss of 1038.
Alright, so that's the sell call coming in on Just Dial. But Shubham, thanks for joining us and giving us your views. Siddarth and Prakash, just hold on for a tad bit. Let's take our viewers through some more trading ideas from our bullseye contestants. This week, CA Rudramurthy, Dharmesh Kant and Vishal Malkan have been battling it out for a strong portfolio. Let's hear out what stocks they've picked up for today.
My first sell call is sell South Indian Bank in futures for a target of 22 rupee 50 paise with a stop loss of 23 rupee 50 paise. My second call for the day is sell SKS Micro in futures for a target of 371 with a stop loss of 388. My third call for the day is sell Bata India in futures for a target of 1010 with a stop loss of 1121. My last sell call for the day is sell Reliance Communication in futures for a target of 60 rupees with a stop loss of 65 rupee 20 paise.
Buy BTC India Financial Services for a price target of 49, keep a stop loss of 42. Buy Imami for a price target of 1190, keep a stop loss of 1090. Buy Syntex for a price target of 110, keep a stop loss of 96. And buy Apollo Hospital for a price target of 1500, keep a stop loss of 1360.
India Cement buy with a stop of 75 for targets of 82. DLF buy with a stop of 127 for targets of 144. Just Dial sell with a stop of 980 for targets of 935.
Alright, so those are some trading ideas to work with, but for now, even in the broader markets, there looks like there could be a big sell-off underway. So watch out for a couple of stocks like Motherson Sumi that are showcasing some more pressure on the downside. Remember, the stock was down about 6% yesterday. It's down another 3.5% today. Sri Renuka will be another stock in focus, down almost about 2.5%. And a couple of these vulnerable names like JP Associates, Suzlon, looks like JP Power, look like they could be under pressure as well this morning. Some negative news coming in on Harrison's Malayalam. There's been a strike by the plantation workers in Kerala and they're demanding a wage hike, so that stock as well could be under pressure today. But let's just continue our chat with our guests. Prakash, another stock that you've picked out for us is KDDL. What's the story there?
Well, this also seems to be potentially one of the stocks that could remain insulated from your overall slowdown, especially the global impact that we are seeing. This company started off way back in 1983 as Kamla, Devices and Kamla Digital Devices Limited. So it used to make the hands that you see in a wristwatch. Okay. And used to export these to all Swiss manufacturers, a lot to the US and Europe as well. But now its primary market is Hong Kong, the Switzerland market and the Indian market. It supplies precision components of watchmaking, and it's a specialist, so there are not many players in that space. It's a good margin business, very healthy margin business. They ran into some losses because of certain rejections in designs and all. What they did smartly is in 2003 they diversified into retailing of high-end Swiss watches under the brand called Ethos. So Ethos set up these showrooms in malls and high-end, the high streets in most of the metros and all, and that's done extremely well. So you could actually get hold of a Swiss watch and genuine Swiss watch in one of these showrooms without being worried about the authenticity of things and all. Now they want to do e-commerce as well, and that's taken off so rapidly. 29% of the business actually comes from e-commerce and at a very high margin. So if you see their website, you'll realize how well established they are, and there's not much of competition in the watch space. People are there in footwear, garments, stuff like that, but not watches as yet, and these high-end watches particularly. So the company is also into autos. That's how I actually it. They supply a lot of stampings, precision stampings to a lot of car manufacturers and now to the defense industry. So all these businesses are very promising. It's just that the company had to get into some operating leverage, in which it has. The last quarter has seen a turnaround. So my sense is you'll probably see it in the news. It's come down a bit, makes reasonable valuations to get in at this level.
Alright, let me welcome Reema into our show as well. She joins me now for the next couple of hours. We have about 30 more seconds to go before the markets open for the day. As we were pointing out earlier, Asia is under intense pressure. The Hong Kong market is down almost 700 points. So is the Japanese market, down almost 600 points. Now we've seen Europe under pressure as well after a lot of the mining stocks got hit quite hard. So in all probability this morning, the metal space could be hit very hard. names like Vedanta, Tata Steel, and then you have auto stocks that could be under pressure because of the sentiment damage from Volkswagen impacting a lot of names like Tata Motors, etc. But let's just wait by and see how the early tick is on the index. Well, that's the market opening. 1% gone straight off the back on the Nifty. It's hanging around at 7,700 for now. Hasn't breached it, but the start is extremely weak. The Sensex is down almost 300 points in the opening tick, and the market breadth has opened at 1:7 in favor of the decline. So the sentiment as we head into the RBI policy is extremely weak. The overarching theme, as I was pointing out, is the fact that metal stocks globally have been under intense pressure, not just metals but commodities as a whole. So in our own markets, the top three losers are Vedanta, Hindalco and Tata Steel, all down anywhere between 2 to 4.5% apiece. That was on expected lines. Coal India is the other one that has continued to lose ground. In fact, in the month of September, Coal India has lost 20% of its value. That's the kind of damage we've seen. But don't take your eye off the Bank Nifty, because that's the one that's underperforming today. Bank Nifty down 1.5%, and a lot of your blue chip banking names like ICICI Bank, IndusInd Bank, Axis Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank are all down anywhere between 1 to about 2.5%. So not looking good at all. Slice through sectors and you're getting losses along the way. Metals, banks, commodities are all under pressure. Cement stocks are taking a tumble as well. So Ambuja and ACC are now down almost about 1.5 to 2% Ultratech Cement is giving them company. From the auto space, because of the issues with Volkswagen, you have both Bosch, which supplies diesel engines. Bosch is down almost 1.5%, and Tata Motors continues to sulk, so it's down another 1.5% or so. That's the sentiment damage that you're seeing. Not a single Nifty stock is in the green, so that's the disappointing bit for the bulls. All Nifty stocks are in the red this morning, and the market breadth now is getting from bad to worse. So 1:10 almost in favor of the declines. Similar weakness in the broader markets?
Yes, the mid-cap index is badly hit. The cut is 1.2% on the mid-cap index. And look at the advanced decline ratio. One stock in the green for nearly 9 on the losing side. And it's commodities which are selling off sharply. So in the broader markets, JSW Steel, SAIL, Kalyani Steel, all of them have lost close to about 3 to 4%. So deep gashes seen over there. Other than that, Motherson Sumi has lost some more ground. So it's down close to about 2% now as we speak. But its fall in the month of September stands at close to about 23 to 24%. You can also see some cuts in names like Marksans Pharma. It's been an outperforming stock, but today it's seen some selling pressure. UPL too has been a stock which has done well off late, but today it's lost close to about 3%. Other than that, stocks which are in the news, Sri Renuka, keep an eye on them. Sri Renuka has taken a tumble as the Brazilian companies are filing for protection under Chapter 11, and Harrison's Malayalam, where the employees have gone on a strike in its Kerala plant for demanding a wage hike. But the point is, the wage hike that they are asking is 115% higher from 232. They want a per day minimum wage of 500 rupees. So that's pretty steep, and Harrison's Malayalam is under pressure. On the gaining side, not too many stocks, and Elder Pharma, which is in the news, is holding up in the green. Net, it's a very weak start. Frontline indices have lost nearly 1%. The Nifty is at 7720, but holding on to that 7700 mark. Anuj, your thoughts on the opening, and are we now heading towards the August lows of 7500?
You know, at this stage, you have to say that we are a big outperformer in the Asian basket remap. Nikkei is down 4%, Hang Seng is down 3.5%. I think this has got more to do with the fact that there's still some hope from the policy, and you don't want to take aggressive shots. I tell you something. This kind of opening is something that the bears would love, because the market has not given a big gap down. It's still only 80 point down. 80 point down in a larger context where the downsides are at 7400, maybe even lower, is really godsend for bears. So I won't be surprised if the bears start to sell even now, or maybe at any 20-30 point bounce, because the sense you get is with the kind of global market or global setup that we're part of, once the policy is out of the way, the market will mirror what the global cues are doing, and there would be a bit of a decline in the second half.
So in that sense, Anuj, as we were pointing out earlier, it could be a lose-lose situation for the bulls, right? Even if a rate cut comes, that's something that has been priced in. If there is cautious guidance from the Reserve Bank governor, then the market will sell off as well. So under no circumstances will this market see any relief.
Yeah, I think if the rate cut does not come, then the market slide would be limited. If the rate cut comes, this is my personal view, if the rate cut actually comes, the market would decline more, because what a rate cut does is that it takes out, it tells you that the last of the rate cut is out of the way. Yeah. If there's no rate cut in a scenario like this, the market would fall anyway. Then there's still hope that, once the good times come, then the market will react positively to a rate cut. So that's the limited point. I still maintain the morning view that, regardless of what the RBI policy does, this market is now, hostage to what's happening globally, and policy would at best be half an hour to 1 hour Q, and after that it will be back to global Qs.
How worried should we be about this underperformance of the banking space? Bank Nifty is down 1.8%.
The Bank Nifty is in a bear market, Rima. Periodically it keeps seeing a bit of buying, but look at the chart. It made a top before the Nifty. I think the Bank Nifty topped out in January, and since then, the high was 24,000 something. Now it's 17,000. So it's in a complete bear market, and that's the problem for the market. The biggest sector is going through a bit of a bear market. So in that kind of scenario, now the question is how much lower. It's now fallen 20% from the peak. 21,000 was the high. It's fallen 20% from the peak. Can it fall another 5 to 10% effortlessly?
All right, Anuj, thanks for that. Well, the market has opened on a weak footing, down almost about 280 points on the Sensex, and the Nifty is down almost more than 1% actually. So disappointing start to trade. But let's take you through a quick recap of Siddarth Bhamre's recommendations. He recommends 3 sell calls: a sell on Ultratech Cement, a sell on Just Dial, and a sell on BHEL. And all of the stocks and the target prices, stop losses are flashing for you on your screen. And what about Shubham?
Okay, so here's a quick recap of Shubham Agarwal's stocks for today. So he recommends a sell on Bharti Airtel with a target price of 280, stop loss to be placed at 352. BHEL2 is a sell, target price 165, stop loss at 212. And his last call for the day is also a sell. It's on Bajaj Auto, target price 2080, stop loss to be kept at 2380. He's also got one buy call, and that's on Wipro with a target price of 670 with a stop loss at 558. But
all right, let's move on. Since the markets have opened on a weak note, let's get our first guest in, Gautam Chacharya, the head